All right, welcome. We are really excited to be hosting the first Breakfast with Halcyon event. It's great to see everyone's beautiful faces this morning. I would say something like you woke up like this, and I would probably be right because it's quite early. Hopefully you have some breakfast, coffee, tea with you. And I think what we'll be able to hopefully add to that is a little bit of inspiration and information in your morning from some of our incredibly talented fellows. We really started this weekly series, and this is the very first one. So thank you for joining us to really kind of bring something out that I think is really needed now, perhaps more than ever, which is the stories, the kind of insight from the fellows who are part of Halcyon, who are in some perspectives on the front lines of innovation in many different fields, kind of across our community and across our world. So before we dive in, there are some of you who might be new to Halcyon. If you're not familiar, Halcyon's a nonprofit. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we're dedicated to empowering social entrepreneurs and civic-minded artists with extraordinary and world-changing ideas. The biggest way we do that is through our fellowships. So we provide a combination of housing, work and studio space, mentorship, stipends, and many other resources. So if this all sounds really good to you, I do want to flag that 1 week from today, our applications will close for the next cohort of Halcyon Incubator and Halcyon Arts Lab Fellows. So if you want to learn more about that, please visit our website, halcyonhouse.org, to find those applications. So we're going to get into a great conversation today with 4 of our incredible fellows. I can't wait to dive into things. First, a few kind of technical notes. We're all on Zoom right now, so just so you know, there's going to be a chat function down at the bottom. So if you ever want to go into there, it'll be very easy to say hello to folks, and you can either message everyone or click to specifically message an individual person. You may hear a few different resources that are mentioned by the speakers today, a website, a place to go, and we'll be noting those resources in the chat feature so you can kind of find easy links to those as we go through. Okay, we got most of the housekeeping out of the way, so really excited to dive in. We want to take each of these breakfast series and focus in on critical issues in our society, understand kind of what are the innovative things being done, and then really get some context around how the state of play has changed since the current crisis around COVID-19. So we're really excited to be joined by 4 incredible individuals today. I'll go ahead and let them tell you a little bit about themselves, their work, how they got into it, and we'll dive right into a conversation. So Marcus, how you doing this morning?
I'm awesome this morning. So great to see this many people virtually. Like, this is so dope.
That's fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. And for those who can't see, Flick Shop is a little bit of the venture you're doing, but I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of your story and what Flick Shop is.
Yes, those who know me, like, know I'm always a walking, talking billboard. So most times if you see me, I'm always gonna have a Flick Shop t-shirt on. But we built the technology that helps keep families connected to their incarcerated loved ones. It was important to me. I went to prison when I was a 15-year-old kid. I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life and stole a car from a man when I was 15 years old. It landed me in front of a judge, and where I got sentenced to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons. I thought that I was going to die in prison, and my mom saved my life by writing me letters and sending me pictures while I was there. And so we wanted to be able to return that kind of same solution back to families that are suffering from incarceration around the globe today.
Fantastic. Really appreciate the work you're doing. Our second panelist, in no particular order, I'll jump over to Tanae. Tanae, I love the bookcase behind you. You must be smart with all those books. Tell us a little bit about your brilliant solution that you're working on right now.
Wow, thanks for teaming me up there, Ryan. My name is Tanae. I'm the founder and CEO of FreeCap, and we help investors move their money out of companies that are exploiting the prison system and instead invest in more socially responsible businesses. And so I'm from a small town in rural Florida where I knew more people who had gone to prison than to college. And I've spent the good part of the past decade trying to figure out how that could happen and what we can do to fix it. And as you start doing research into causes of mass incarceration, you quickly learn about the prison industrial complex and all the skewed economic incentives that keep people behind bars. And so what we're doing is providing transparency around that. So we rate companies based on how they positively or negatively impact incarceration rates. And we license that information to investors so that they can more responsibly invest in the stock market.
Incredible work. Thank you. We really appreciate it. All right. I'll jump next to Yasmin. I would love to hear a little bit more about the work you're doing with scholarships.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good morning. It is really a pleasure to be with you all and my fellow Halcyon fellows this morning, as well as Halcyon staff and guests, donors, supporters. Woo woo tonight. So my name is Yasmin Arrington, affectionately known as Yazzie. I'm the founder and executive director of both Incarcerated, which is a virtual platform that allows for those who have loved ones who are incarcerated to purchase care packages and send them to them. And the other is Scholarships, which is a DC-based nonprofit that provides college scholarships, mentoring, and a support network to youth who have incarcerated parents and they're pursuing their college degree. To date, we've awarded over $180,000 in college scholarships to 61 scholars, with 17 graduates, not counting those who are the additional scholars who are expected to graduate this year. I'll just say briefly that I started scholarships as a junior in high school. I'm a DC native. I attended Benjamin Banneker Academic High School and enrolled in a program called Learn Serve International, which trained and equipped us to be, as teenagers, to be social entrepreneurs and to take ownership, right? And to not wait for others to find the solutions or to attempt to address our most pressing social issues. And as we can see now, unfortunately, we cannot always wait on higher leadership to give us the answers, right? So anyhow, I am the child of an incarcerated parent. My biological father has been in and out of jail and prison my entire life. So I know the psychological effects, the emotional effects, the financial effects, and other effects that come from having an incarcerated parent. So I'm excited to be on the call today.
We're excited to have you. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your story. Last but certainly not least, the most creative person on this panel, in my opinion, Halim Flowers. Very excited to hear a little bit more about the work you're doing.
Great morning. My name is Halim Flowers. I'm an artist, and I'm also, being an artist, I'm also an entrepreneur and an investor. And my responsibility as a human being is, in interest, to criminal justice, is to create things, whether it's paintings, poems, plays, create things that not only help people to make sense of the nonsense, what we know to be the criminal injustice system, but to induce an empathy in people that not only moves them to like a sympathy, but moves them to an empathy that compels them to direct action. So my personal connection to the criminal injustice system is that at the age of 16, I was tried as an adult in DC, convicted for something that I didn't do, given 2 life sentences. I served 22 years in prison. I've been free for 1 year, which is ironic because I went from lockdown, now I'm back to lockdown now with the COVID crisis. So, but just my responsibility is to help people to see the internal. My belief is the internal problems that we have in our society dealing with all issues, including criminal justice, is that we don't have a very assertive culture when it comes to love, and external to address the social economic barriers that keep people into intergenerational poverty and the ramifications that come from that, which often lead to mass criminality.
Well, Halim, we really appreciate you joining us and sharing your perspective today. If you're just joining us, we have 4 Halcyon Fellows here who are really at the forefront in providing leadership in the criminal justice system today. Marcus, Tanae, Yasmin, Halim, thank you again for joining us. So let's go ahead and dive in to a little bit more of the depth, especially, contextually where we are in the world right now. Things have changed a lot in the past month. And I think that we often there's so much news we're inundated with, we're not able to kind of dive deep on particular areas. So we're really excited to learn more about where we are right now. Yasmin, I think I want to start with you. A lot of your work revolves around working with the families and children who have incarcerated parents or loved ones. One of the measures that's been taken to reduce the spread of COVID-19 is to largely shut off visitation to prisoners. Can you tell me a little bit about how that has impacted the children and the families that you're working with?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Ryan, for that question. If I may really quickly, I just want to share. So via NBC News, 2 days ago, released on March 30th, there's an article that was published entitled "Prisoners in New York Jail Sound Alarm as Coronavirus Spreads. I Fear for My Life." American jails right now are being coined as ticking time bombs for COVID-19. And it has become, now we know that there are jail inmates that have tested positive in jails in Illinois, New Jersey, California, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, South Dakota, and Washington, D.C. So this is a very alarming issue, because as we're watching the news, we know that when you're living in close quarters with a lot of people, being that COVID-19 may be airborne, and it most likely is, a lot of people contract it, and for some, it becomes a very deadly virus. Some recover; their antibodies work very fast to eject, so to speak, the virus in their bodies, while others, unfortunately, do not recover. So this is a very big issue, and at this time, children and families who have folks on the inside are not able to visit. And that is, just one less. Now this is a thing where people, it's a way that we're not now, one less way that we can stay connected. And so we're starting to have to think of creative ways to connect. And, that could be through video. Some jails or prisons allow virtual, video accesses, conferences, and others do not. And also scholars, we're encouraging them to write letters. And, I'm sure we'll be partnering with Marcus and Flick Shop Angels to provide another platform to allow our scholars to stay in contact with their loved ones who are on the inside and incarcerated during this time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's clearly a very difficult time, especially when you have people in such close quarters. I want to jump to Tanae. Tanae, I know a lot of your work focuses on, what we see with kind of the prison labor side of things, right? And how, there are some really problematic issues with prison labor in normal times. What are you seeing now with COVID-19? How has that adjusted since you have the expertise in this area?
It's making it a horrible problem even worse. So folks on the inside are paid on average 67 cents an hour. In some states like Texas, they don't get paid at all. And you have this a very vulnerable community who, because there is no opportunity for social distancing, is at an increased risk for catching the virus, who are still being asked to go to work. And thinking in particular about North Carolina right now, work release programs still asking people to go to chicken farms because of the supply chain issues that the rest of us are having of getting access to chicken. And yet those folks are not being paid for that. and they're being exposed to the virus and bringing it back to their community, to their cells. And so you have both states and companies who are exploiting this community. And yeah, it's horrible. And even in normal times, this would be bad. This is unacceptable. But given the fact that people are putting their lives on the line and are not being compensated at all for it, is this the situation we're dealing with right now?
It's incredibly challenging. You know, I want to zoom out just a little bit. Halim, I know we've talked a little bit about this. You know, right now it's, and you mentioned it, I think, in your remarks earlier, you know, we're in a really unique time where, you know, there is some level of local, state, or federal mandate that has restricted the access and mobility we all have to different parts of our community and our society. How do you think that creates empathy with people who are currently incarcerated?
It's a great question. As an artist, you know, most of the people who collect art are like high net worth, high income people, which is great for me as an artist because these are the people who often have the power and the influence to change social, economic, systemic constructs that lead to mass incarceration and mass criminality. And by these individuals who I know, who I am friends with, who I love, who have never experienced a situation where as though their privilege could not be a solution to their problems. So now that even these individuals have lost mobility, the state has seized authority over their movement. I think that this is a great time to be an artist, to create things that people can begin to not just empathize, but live in solidarity with those who constantly are confined. You know, and those of us who are poor, grew up in DC during the crack era, we have been fearful of death from gun violence, whether it's from law enforcement or from our own community, every day of our lives. So the recent crisis, whereas though people, now everyone has a lack of mobility, the state has controlled their movement, they are living in fear of death every day. This is a reality for poor people, especially poor people who's been socially constructed of being poor people of color. This is our reality every day. So I think this is a great opportunity for us as artists to create things, to seize the moment while people feel what it's like to not be able to move.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that perspective. And, you know, I think that it's, you know, for all of the challenges we're facing right now and all the anxiety I think a lot of us are feeling, I really think that's a very, you know, kind of optimistic message and how we're going to be able to, you know, kind of take lemons that life is throwing us and make some lemonade with it, and building those empathetic links. Marcus, I want to turn to you and ask about, you know, kind of what the response right now in this current crisis and how, and what are the lessons that you think we're going to be able to pull out of this in terms of how we're better able to have a more fair and equitable justice system coming out of COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, Ron, that's an awesome question. And so, like, give me on the soapbox. I didn't get a chance to talk about this kind of stuff. I love this kind of stuff right here. One of the things that I'm most excited about this horrible time that we're living in, we're all like stuck in our homes, we're all trying to figure out these solutions, and that it is creating a sense of empathy. And I'm like so grateful for Halim even talking about how art plays a big part of it, right? Like I read a tweet about this, Halim, yesterday, and was like, you know, if those who don't think that art is important, like, good luck with your quarantine without any music or any movies or any, you know, books or any like it shows like how like art just completely just transcends all of these kinds of barriers, including a virus. But at any rate, like the level of empathy that's being created here during this time, I think is going to, you know, create huge waves in the justice system. I mean, we're seeing conversations start, right? I mean, with people, some local and county jails, juvenile detention centers, they're having conversations about what it's going to look like to be able to release waves of people that may be, at high risk of this virus, knowing like, Yasmin, gave some states that have been already impacted by this living in themselves. Yasmin, I didn't even know all of those states had, people that had, cases inside of their prison systems. But like, it's starting to have the conversation. We now recognize like, maybe this isn't maybe this is an opportunity for us to be able to exercise the empathy that we all know that we have. And I think that's going to create a different conversation as we think about how we should move forward in the justice system.
Well, if the four of you have anything to say about it, we're going to be in a much better place. So I really appreciate that. I wanted to throw out kind of one last question for each of you, but before I do that, I do, for everyone who's joining us, first of all, welcome. We're here with four of Halcyon's most brilliant, talented fellows, the individuals who give me energy every time I get to see them, and we're hoping to share some of that energy with you as you're starting your day, and really taking a deep dive and understanding what are some of the kind of leading thinkers in the criminal justice system, really what's on their minds right now. And so I get to ask the next question. It's one of the privileges that I have, but then I'm gonna we want to get everyone in the conversation. So you'll notice that there's, if you go to the participant section on your bottom bar, there'll be a raise hand icon. So you can raise your hand after this question, and everyone gets a chance to respond. I'll be calling on other folks in the audience to ask questions. So please begin thinking about the perfect wording for your brilliant question, and try to keep them as brief as possible, just so we can get in as many as we can this morning. So turning back to the panel, we are in a time of crisis right now, but in many ways, our criminal justice system has been in some state of crisis for quite a while, and you guys are the ones at the forefront of thinking about what things are going to look like. So I want to bring you to the year 2025. So we're jumping 5 years in the future now. First, I'd like to know so in an optimistic world, what does our criminal justice system look like in 2025? And what are the things we needed to do now, 2020, to make that a reality? So I'll kick it maybe to Tanae first to answer that question.
Okay. So my vision is maybe a bit ambitious for 2025, but I would like mass incarceration to be past tense in the way that we communicate it, because we no longer have a large incarcerated population. So the goal is to get people out of prison and jails. There are a lot of things that we need to do to accomplish that. The people here on the panel inspire me to make me feel like that is something that we can get to. The world that I'm working in is the financial market space, and so getting capital markets to realign the way they think about exposure to prisons and risk. And so we've already seen Wall Street analysts and investors start to think about climate change and lack of gender diversity in their portfolios as a risk. And therefore, when they look at companies who are contributing towards climate change or who don't have women on their boards, they value them accordingly. I want people to start looking at the way companies interact with the prison system in the same lens, so that the cost of financing of those companies are impacted by it. And once we get that capital markets shift to happen, we will see a drastic reduction in the prison industrial complex.
Yeah, very, very well put. So basically, taking the money out of the system is what's going to be able to, the investment we make now in terms of taking the money out of the system is what in 2025 will end mass incarceration.
We'll be part of the solution. Like it's a massive problem, so it's a all hands on deck kind of problem, and so we need all of us to be doing our part. And so the financial markets also has a role to play in that.
All right, if it's all hands on deck, Halim, you're next. I want to hear a little bit about 2025. What does it look like? What do we need to do in 2020 to make it a reality?
Oh, that's an easy question. It's too many men in the way. So 2025, we have a female president. We have more women in executive branches, more as far as governors, federal and state, senators and House of Representatives. more female representation, not only in the executive and the legislative branch, but also in the judicial branches, the way as though the interpretation of the laws can be not just constitutional, which was created by a bunch of slave-owning men, but more humane. And in 2025, as a result of this massive influx of women into these three branches of government, we will see that not only will the total numbers of those who are incarcerated will go down, but we will start to see the beginning of the abolishment of the prison system as we know it. Not to say that we won't have spaces, buildings where people will be housed at to be held accountable for their mistakes that they make in our communities, but these spaces will be more humane. They will not be the institutions that we have today. They will be places not only where people can be held accountable through love, but also where they can be repaired through love and suitable to re-enter our society and contribute to our community. So 2025, it looks more woman-like in all those different branches, you know, of government and corporate, you know, as Tanae hinted to.
So, so if you want to support that vision, 2020 coming right around the corner, definitely vote for the women on your ballot in the elections. Let's jump. I want to jump over to Marcus. Tell me a little bit about what's an optimistic vision for where we are in 2025. What do we need to do in 2020 to get there?
Yeah, one of the places. Yo, Halim, thank you so much for that one, man. I appreciate you on that one. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, introducing humanity to the conversation is always like a big part of it. And I think that you're right. Like a lot of the humane ideas are coming from places that, you know, haven't been filling in a lot of spots inside America. So one of the things that we're intentional about at Flick Shop is leveraging technology to build scalable solutions. We're starting with family connections and connectivity, and you know, we successfully connected over 165,000 families that way, and we're excited about what we're moving forward to now with bringing in other resources into prison facilities, in jails around the country. And so now, you know, as we think about what employment looks like and what housing, you know, needs are going to look like and how to be able to get those resources back into prisons well before the release of these people from these cells, we see that in a huge reduction in recidivism. And I think that that's the place we want to go. We want to be able to figure out how, you know, like Tanae says, like all hands on deck. How can we take these, you know, these small chunks of the elephant, each of us, and then all, you know, gobble it up? And I think that's how we completely eradicate. I'm an abolitionist guy, so full disclaimer there. But how we get rid of these prison cells? I mean, I think that that's the thing to do now. It's like, you know, build real scalable solutions that are going to completely take micro bite-sized pieces away from this huge elephant. We're doing it with data and tech. And I think there are other huge solutions around the country that are starting to scale up. And again, a big part of it, and I think Halcyon for this, is giving us to be able to space to create, again, this level of empathy that I think is going to change how people see this construct.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yasmin, kick it to you for what does 2025 look? What do we need to do today to make that a reality?
Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, I have about 5 things here, so I'm just gonna list them off. I can't go into a rabbit hole with each of them. Well, first and foremost, in 2025 and beyond, I have a optimistic hope for a future where our correctional facilities are less punitive and more rehabilitative. There are a lot of folks with mental health issues, folks who are addicted to drugs. Now, you know, some call it like an opioid crisis, or so to speak. But there are various things where people need help and therapy and counseling and things that need to be addressed. And so far in this country, we've opted to just tossing people away in prison. I want to see grants for education for degrees restored at federal facilities. I would like to see new parole policies where technical violations don't automatically lead to reincarceration. That's a big issue that a lot of times goes unseen and not really discussed aside from some of the coalitions that are working on this issue. I would like to see a complete reconstruction of our parole systems across the states. Some states, even if someone is incarcerated, even if there is an incarcerated individual that is being considered for parole by a parole board, a governor has to sign off. And if that governor does not sign off, guess what? That individual will continue to be incarcerated, even if they have, good time credits and all of those things. Also, Second Look Act, IRA, that looks at, young offenders who committed crimes under the age of 18. Now it's like under the age of 21. After about 20 years of incarceration, their cases will be relooked at and reconsidered for their release. Now that needs to be something that's adopted across the country. And lastly, especially in DC, you guys, like our halfway house for DC, for males in DC is closing. And due to gentrification, there's some folks that are like, we don't want a halfway house in our ward or in our region, our district, which is very strange. I agree with my fellow Halcyon folks, like that we have to think about humanity and have a sense of empathy, right? I think sometimes we like to disregard people and things that we do not understand, and we sometimes opt to live in fear and disgust. But that's not, honestly, a lot of humans have things that they have done in their past that if those things were known about, or if they did not have the skin color or the influence to get off, they too would be in jail. So those are the things that I would like to see in 2025 and moving forward with our criminal, as Halim says, injustice system.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So as promised, I really want to make sure that we're getting the audience in. Hopefully the coffee or tea, the caffeine is flowing through your system. You've got your questions ready. So on the bottom of your screen, if you go into the participant section, should be a button that allows you to raise your hand. So go ahead and hit that button if you have a question you'd like to ask, and we'll go ahead and unmute you. We kind of muted everyone as they came in to avoid all the background noise and children running around and pets and everything, but we'll unmute you if you raise your hand to ask the panelists a question. So I see Florence. I see you have your hand up.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. So as a concerned citizen and people who care, how can we try to leverage the current empathy level that Halim was talking about to try to move the needle forward? Is there anything we can do more than what we do usually?
I think one thing definitely you could do is look for organizations such as like the Frederick Douglass Project, that connects citizens with those who are currently incarcerated. I think the greatest thing that you can do is to begin to connect with people who are incarcerated. And it's just something as simple as when you in confinement, things that we take for granted, like a good book, is very impactful in someone's life. And it's because of people like yourself who sent me good books. People send me good periodicals like The Nation, which I had no frame of reference of, that really not only just made me feel better as a human being, but really prepared me for society. And because of that investment of that type of human communication and tools of cultural capital, I was able to, assimilate quickly back into society and kind of scale with the things that I wanted to do to contribute to our society.
Awesome. Marcus, I know you definitely have something people can do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So Florence, I'm super pumped about your question. Here we have a very clear and easy way for our community to be able to get involved and be able to help during this time. With all of the prison visiting room closures, family connectivity has shrunk down to like very, very narrow roads to be able to give back to people that are in these cells. 2.3 million of them are sitting in cells and have no idea what's happening around the world. And these small micro bits of love that are flowing into these cells with our Flickshop postcards have created an incredible lifeline for each one of these family members. Family members are able to add a photo, type a quick message and say, hey, I love you so much. Keep your head up. I'm here. I'm on lockdown too, right? And able to send these small screenshots and bite-sized messages to their loved ones. Now, the downside is a lot of people, even though they're only 99 cents, still can't afford it. And so especially the children with incarcerated parents, we want to be able to give them a way to be able to make that happen. So the Flickshop Angels program allows for our community members to be able to purchase these Flickshop gift cards with 10 Flickshop credits on them a piece, and allows us to be able to give them away to children with incarcerated parents so they can send as many selfies and in-the-house pictures to mom and dad as they possibly can. And we have a goal right now to connect 100,000 families during the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you would like to become a Flickshop Angel, just visit flickshopangels.com. Again, flickshopangels.com, and you can help us connect children with incarcerated parents.
Wonderful. And Yasmin, I think you just posted in the group chat that folks can also check out Scholarships Fund.
Yes. Building off of Marcus's point, we really have to tackle this issue from all angles, and as Tanae said, all hands on deck. We're calling all hands on deck. There's definitely something you can do. Continue to follow us, support us, Halcyon Fellows. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on all of those platforms. I'm not on TikTok, unfortunately, yet. But please, so scholarships, we support youth who have incarcerated parents. We have support, we support young people who they're currently pursuing their college degree. And I'm very big on education. I would not be as far as I have come if it were not for community support, if it were not for scholarships, and if it were not for me going on to pursue a higher education. Well, I mean, you can receive education wherever you are, but that's our specific focus, is getting our scholars to and through college so they can have that degree in hand. And
Yep.
Right now, our youth are facing severe challenges in light of COVID-19. So please visit www.scholarchips, that's with a C, chips, as in chocolate chip cookies, scholarchipfund.org. You can donate now. Definitely donate via PayPal, secure donation, or via check. And we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and kick it over to Amy Aronson, whose hand is up.
So good morning. I think the panelists, our fellows, are rock star. I feel so inspired this morning. So thank you for being lights into our community. I guess my question, and forgive my ignorance, but in a time where we're trying to solve such big problems, that my question to you is, are there any states or particular leaders who are leading the way that have shown the light in how do we make incremental change? Because what I'm feeling in the world right now is that we have to solve things at a hyper-local level. Yes, we are all connected. I think that's what the coronavirus is revealing, but who is stepping into this incredible leadership? It's great. Ryan, I loved your question about 2025. I think the reality is, how do we start to pay tribute to those that are making incredible inroads today? And then how do we get behind those? And where do we insert some of those positive narratives? I mean, I think every one of the panelists has a positive narrative to tell about transformation, resilience, impact, vision. But I'm just thinking to kind of connect it to Halim, what you were saying about our legislators, and how do we start to really recognize those people that are leading the way for all of us to then get behind?
Well, I think locally, in the state of Virginia, we have the governor in a Democrat-led House and Senate right now who are doing great things. They just legislated a juvenile life reform law. The governor of Colorado is just signed legislation ending the death penalty, and the governor of California has instituted some things in relation to changing their felony murder, accomplice liability doctrine law, juvenile lifers. The California, they passed a law to where if anyone committed the offenses under the age of 25. So it's pretty much a lot of governors and mayors who are doing things, but just those three right now just stand off, to come off the top of my mind. But I think once you start to engage in this with the individuals in the organizations that do this type of work, then you'll be in the loop with the information with the actors that's actually doing the work. But we also have one thing that I want to mention. I just received the grant from the Art for Justice Fund to work with progressive prosecutors, elected district attorneys who are heavily invested in decarceration. Kim Gardner in St. Louis, Kim Fox in Chicago, and the DA in Boston. I mean, they're all over San Francisco, Philadelphia. I can't remember their names, but you have this newly termed generation of prosecutors known as progressive prosecutors who are highly invested in decarceration and restorative justice practices.
Yep. And Tanae, the last word here.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add too that there's a lot that we can do with our power as shareholders through shareholder engagement strategies. And so something that had brought me a lot of joy last year was watching the Families Belong Together movement and the way they were able to get JP Morgan and a lot of the large banks to stop lending to private prison companies. And so the credit lines to private prisons are shrinking, and that's because people who own stocks in those banks decided that enough is enough. And so, and that movement, that coalition is a large group of nonprofits, but it also includes like pension funds and religious institutions who have been mobilizing in this space for years. So there's definitely a way to work with your wealth manager in that space as well.
That's fantastic. All right, I'm going to kick it to my colleague Andrew Jacobs now, as we're getting towards 9 o'clock here. Andrew, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you so much to all of our fellows who have joined us today. Thank you to all of our community members who are here watching. Special shout out to the PG County Office of Public Defenders, of which my boyfriend is currently sitting to my left and part of, and all of his coworkers are tuning in. It means a lot that you're here and we're able to bring our community together in this way. We couldn't do what we do for our fellows without our wonderful community. We also couldn't do what we do without the financial support of that community because we are a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we rely entirely on donations from individuals and corporations and foundations. So if and only if you are in the place to do so at a time like this, we encourage you to go to halcyonhouse.org/donate. I will put that link in the Zoom chat for you all, and consider donating any gift of any amount to Halcyon to help us continue to professionally, personally, and financially support our fellows at a time like this when small businesses, when independent artists need it the most. They are groups of people in our population who need support during this time, and we are committed to doing that. So please go check us out if you're interested in doing so, and I will pass it back to Ryan.
Awesome, thanks Andrew. All right, we are at 9 o'clock now. So this was hopefully a really interesting, informative, inspirational, potentially, start to your day. I just want to give a huge thanks to Halim, Marcus, Yasmin, Tanae. You guys just bring light into everyone's life that you interact with. We really appreciate your insights today. If you enjoyed this, we're going to be doing this every Wednesday. So at 8:15 next Wednesday, the following Wednesday, the one afterwards, and we're going to be here showcasing some of the incredible work of Halcyon Fellows across our various programs. So please make sure to come back with us next week. If you enjoyed this, you may also enjoy on Friday. We're actually doing our first virtual studio visit event. So we're looking at some of the Halcyon Arts Lab Fellows. We're going to be specifically looking at the work of Halcyon Arts Lab Fellow Mercedes, who will be giving us a little bit of a tour of some of the work that she's doing. I saw it yesterday. It's absolutely incredible. So we'll send a sign up to that through, it's on both of our events calendar and also through the email that we had sent just yesterday. We'll leave the Zoom conference open, so if you want to chat with folks in the chat function, please feel free to do that. The people on this call are incredible and amazing. We can't share the physical space right now, but we really hope that this type of social connection is something that we can continue to really facilitate here at Halcyon. So thanks again to the speakers, to all of you for being a part of this community, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.